could really play.
No. He can't even be Shakur.
He can't
So you.
What's your point? Lied to you?
You lost. I seen the videos.
You ain't see my video.
Oh, I didn't.
Exactly.
I just seen the video.
Exactly.
What would happen?
Exactly.
What would happen one-on-one once your shoulder gets good?
What you think?
He can't beat me.
You see, he got look at his shoes. His shoes not even tied up.
Hey, I'll beat you without shoes.
Oh my! I was scoring on you. It's okay. Listen, you won the first game. I won the second game. The third game was a draw. So hey, we gonna do it.
So if he won, you know you can't beat him.
Ooh.
Nah, you can't beat him.
Who? Why I can't beat him? Why I can't?
You can't.
Why I can't?
Alright, so get your squad together.
No, I don't want no squad. I want one-on-one. I'm
Hey,
like
you're not gonna be one-on-one. You're gonna need a squad.
When I showed up, because Crawford ain't nothing to play with. He ain't scared of nobody, and you ain't too big for Crawford.
The boxing world just exploded. Terence Crawford, Shakur Stevenson, and the Haney camp went face-to-face in what might be the most intense confrontation we've seen all year. No security between them, no distance, just pure, unfiltered tension that had everyone in that room holding their breath. You could cut the atmosphere with a knife, and what happened next sent shockwaves through the entire sport. This wasn't some manufactured drama for the cameras. This was real beef, real stakes, and real consequences that are about to reshape the entire lightweight division. The energy was so thick that even seasoned boxing insiders were caught off guard by how personal this got, how fast it escalated, and how it's now forced everyone to pick a side in what's becoming the most explosive rivalry in boxing.
Coach, you see what it is. He's full of folly and melancholy. You get what I'm saying? Listen, he's full of folly and melancholy. He cannot artfully, respectfully.
But here's where it gets absolutely wild. Right after that heated confrontation, Terence Crawford didn't back down or try to smooth things over. Instead, he doubled down harder than anyone expected. Crawford stepped up and defended Shakur Stevenson with the kind of passion you rarely see from a veteran champion. He went straight at the narrative that Shakur is boring, calling it complete nonsense from people who don't understand defensive greatness. And listen, when Crawford speaks about boxing talent, the entire sport stops and pays attention. This isn't just some random fighter giving his opinion. This is a pound-for-pound legend putting his reputation on the line for Shakur Stevenson. Crawford knows that defensive masters always get criticized by casual fans who want blood and knockouts every round. But he also knows that the greatest fighters in history built their legacies on making elite opponents look ordinary. The fact that Crawford is willing to go to war verbally for Shakur tells you everything about how special he believes this kid really is.
Shakur is a different fighter. You know, Shakur is different. You know, people may call him boring. People may say he can't punch. But they say the same thing about Floyd. Because they defensive fight.
Now here's the kicker. Crawford didn't just defend Shakur in general terms. He issued a direct warning to Devin Haney that felt more like a threat than friendly advice. The way Crawford looked at Haney during that moment, the tone in his voice, the body language, everything screamed that this rivalry has crossed into personal territory. Crawford basically told Haney that he's playing with fire, that he doesn't understand what he's getting himself into with Shakur. And you know what's crazy? Crawford has been in the ring with some of the most dangerous fighters on the planet. He's faced killers, champions, and legends. So when he tells you that someone is a problem, you better believe it's coming from a place of real knowledge. The warning wasn't just about Shakur's boxing skills. It felt like Crawford was telling Haney that he's about to step into a nightmare that will expose every weakness he's been hiding behind his undefeated record.
What you? It ain't but one guy. Hold on. It's one guy. We ain't but one guy. It ain't but one guy keeping him away from him. That's Terence Crawford.
Hey,
but one guy.
Everyone in the room picked you to win. Everyone that I asked. Everyone.
Except for me, guess what? I'm going with him. I'm rocking with him.
Do you know Devin? Have you seen him grow up over the years?
Yeah.
What's he say? He's a champ?
He was a little fighting in the ring with the Reds boxing trunks. I told him that I would fuck him up at a young age.
But wait, it gets even more intense. Crawford then dropped a bombshell accusation that has everyone talking. He straight up claimed that Devin Haney is trying to downplay Shakur Stevenson because he knows deep down that the matchup is absolutely terrifying for him. Think about that for a second. Crawford is essentially saying that all the criticism, all the attempts to diminish Shakur's accomplishments, all the subtle disrespect, it's all coming from a place of fear. And honestly, when you look at the evidence, it starts to make perfect sense. Why would an undefeated champion spend so much energy talking down a fighter he supposedly doesn't respect? Why not just take the fight and prove your point in the ring? Crawford's theory is that Haney knows exactly how dangerous Shakur is, and he's trying to convince the public and maybe even himself that the fight isn't worth the risk. It's psychological warfare at the highest level, and Crawford just called it out in front of everyone.
Tank is not going to be able to hit Shakur like he hit everybody else. And he know that. He knows that. That's why he's like, he's boring, he's this, he's that. He's trying to diminish everything that Shakur have done so it's not marketable. But he can't do that because Shakur is what? A 3-way world champion.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
you see right now.
Like how many actual real titles have Shakur? I mean, Tank had like what, 2?
Yeah, I think 2. He got the WBA right.
And get this, when Devin Haney finally responded to all this pressure, his answer revealed everything you need to know about his mindset. Haney said he's open to fighting Shakur, which sounds confident on the surface. But then he immediately added that he won't move down to 147. Hold up. Did you catch that? After all that confrontation, after all that tension, after being directly challenged by one of the greatest fighters alive, Haney's first instinct is to set conditions and limitations. That's not the response of a fighter who's genuinely excited about proving himself against elite competition. That's the response of someone who's looking for ways to complicate the fight before it even gets made. And fans noticed immediately. Social media exploded with people questioning whether Haney really wants this smoke, or if he's already looking for an exit strategy. The hesitation was so obvious that it actually made the confrontation look even worse for the Haney side.
You versus Dev, is that back on the table as far as us as fans should be talking about this, or is that y'all niggas just doing some Twitter shit?
Nah, I mean, that's cool. Like, I told you, I'll fight him. I'll move up to 40 and fight him. Like, there's no changing, like, what I think about that fight. I think that'll be a big fight, too, in the sport of boxing. And it'll, like, be a long time coming just because of the history of everything that went on. But I'm not going to 47, so that's why I really asked him what.
Now listen to this part because Crawford wasn't done making statements. Right after that awkward response from Haney, Crawford went completely overboard with his support for Shakur Stevenson. He called Shakur the next best fighter ever. Not just good, not just talented, the next best fighter ever. That's not hyperbole you throw around casually, especially not right after a heated confrontation. Crawford was sending a message to Haney and everyone else in that room that they're looking at a generational talent who's about to take over the sport. When a legend like Crawford makes that kind of prediction publicly, it carries serious weight. He's basically telling the boxing world that we're watching the early stages of a historic career, and anyone who sleeps on Shakur is going to regret it. The timing of that statement, right after the confrontation, felt like Crawford was putting the entire division on notice that a new king is coming.
Not only because he's a good close friend of mine, he's a little brother of mine. I really believe that that boy is, well, man now, because he's not a little boy. I'm still used to seeing him as a little boy, but that man is the next best fighter to ever live. And not just because I'm friends with him, like I said. It's because I've been in the ring with him. I seen what he done under pressure. I seen how hard he trained. I seen how dedicated he is.
But here's where it gets really awkward. Devin Haney tried to cool down the situation by saying supportive things about Shakur, talking about wanting success for him and all that diplomatic stuff. But the timing couldn't have been worse. After everything that just happened, after all that tension and confrontation, Haney's sudden switch to Mr. Nice Guy felt completely forced and fake. Fans saw right through it. It looked like damage control, like someone told him in his ear that he was coming off badly and needed to change his approach fast. The problem is, you can't unsee that initial reaction. You can't take back that hesitation about the weight class. And you definitely can't erase the image of him looking uncomfortable during the confrontation while Crawford and Crawford stood their ground with complete confidence. Sometimes the most telling moments in boxing happen outside the ring. And this was one of those moments that revealed more about these fighters' true personalities than any interview ever could.
I'll be rooting for him. I want him to win, and I think that it will align, and it'll be.
Here's something that makes this whole situation even more fascinating. Max Kellerman jumped into the conversation and made a point that perfectly explains why Shakur Stevenson is causing so much fear and frustration. Kellerman talked about how elite fighters with incredible skill and speed become virtually unbeatable when they refuse to take unnecessary risks. That description fits Shakur Stevenson perfectly. He's not just talented, he's smart. He's not just fast, he's calculated. And that combination is absolutely terrifying for fighters who rely on making fights messy and chaotic. Kellerman's analysis basically confirmed what Crawford has been saying all along. Shakur represents the kind of technical brilliance that can make elite opponents look ordinary, and that's exactly why there's so much resistance to giving him the big fights he deserves. When boxing experts start comparing your style to the most frustrating and dominant fighters in history, you know you've got something special that other fighters really don't want to deal with.
When a guy has those advantages in boxing skill and speed, and they don't take risks, they are almost impossible to beat. So no matter who Purnell was fighting, no matter who Roy was fighting, if someone would have asked me who they're going to be, they're fighting Godzilla, Purnell. They're fighting Roy.
And then Ryan Garcia decided to insert himself into the conversation in the most Ryan Garcia way possible. He started talking about having quick eyes and the speed to compete with Shakur, even bringing up their amateur history like it means something in the professional ranks. But here's the thing. In the context of everything that just happened with the confrontation, Ryan's comments sounded more desperate than confident. It felt like he was trying to stay relevant while the real drama was happening between Shakur and the Haney camp. And honestly, that might be the most telling part of this entire situation. Even fighters who aren't directly involved in the rivalry feel the need to comment and position themselves, which shows just how much attention and respect Shakur Stevenson is commanding across the entire division. When your name is generating this much conversation and this much fear, you know you're doing something right.
And the thing is, with Shakur, they're going to be all thinking he's going to spank me, blah, 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 all this shit. And when I get in there and I start hitting him, it's going to be a whole, because I'm not one of those fighters that don't have a quick eye. He knows that my eye is quick. He like, I have that same eye twitch that Shakur has, I do. He knows it. We fought in the amateurs. I beat you. Don't even play around. You know I...
Did you catch what Crawford said next? Because this is where he really went for the throat. Crawford openly claimed that fighters are avoiding Shakur Stevenson, and he said it with the kind of conviction that makes you believe every word. According to Crawford, all the criticism about Shakur being boring is just an elaborate excuse to avoid a dangerous matchup that nobody really wants. And when you think about it, that makes perfect sense. How many times have we seen fighters get criticized for being boring right before they become impossible to ignore? Floyd Mayweather dealt with the same narrative for years until he became the biggest draw in the sport. Crawford is basically predicting that history is about to repeat itself with Shakur, and the fighters who are making excuses now are going to look really stupid when Shakur starts collecting belts and breaking records. The accusation puts serious pressure on everyone in the division, especially Devin Haney, to prove that their hesitation isn't rooted in fear of getting embarrassed on the biggest stage.
You like that fight?
He's not gonna fight Shakur. You know what I mean? Ryan, he's a good kid, you know what I mean? But I just don't see him fighting Shakur.
You wouldn't like that fight for Shakur? Like, that'll be possibly the biggest fight for him.
I said
like,
I wouldn't.
He wouldn't take
Ryan,
it, yeah.
Ryan wouldn't take that fight right now. It's Shakur against everybody in the division right now. You know, I don't think nobody really want to see Shakur right now in his division. You know, you can say whatever you want. You can say he's boring. You can say, oh, he don't punch. You can say, you know, all these things about him. But I don't see nobody just, you know, eager to get in the ring.
Even other top fighters and analysts started weighing in, which shows how much this confrontation has shifted the entire conversation around the lightweight division. Lomachenko's trainer talked about Ryan Garcia's evolution. Bernard Hopkins discussed timing and fairness between fighters, and suddenly everyone with a platform had an opinion about this situation. But here's what's really interesting. Every single conversation kept circling back to the same themes: hunger, mentality, preparation, and who's really ready for the biggest fights. When boxing legends start analyzing every aspect of these fighters' mindsets, you know the stakes have gotten serious. The confrontation didn't just create drama between Shakur and Haney. It forced the entire boxing world to pick sides and make predictions about who's going to rise to the occasion and who's going to crumble under the pressure.
now it's different. Now he's like a professional boxer. Then I sparred with Ryan Garcia. He was a kid, but now he has a power. He has a boxing professional experience.
Shakur Stevenson himself added fuel to the fire by questioning other fighters' focus and preparation, which perfectly shows his mindset after that heated confrontation. This isn't a fighter who got rattled or emotional. This is someone who's analyzing his competition with surgical precision and finding weaknesses everywhere he looks. When Shakur talks about discipline and preparation, he's not just making conversation. He's sending a message that he believes his work ethic and mental approach separate him from everyone else in the division. And honestly, that confidence is probably the most dangerous thing about him. Technical skills can be matched, speed can be overcome, but that kind of unshakable belief in your own superiority, that's what turns good fighters into legends and makes opponents beat themselves before they even step in the ring.
Ryan is ready. That should be, I don't know for sure, I could be wrong, that should be a healing time between now and then for Shakur, correct? As long as he stay healthy. Out of the gate, no advantages. Would you agree? No advantage as far as being active.
But here's what nobody's talking about, and it might be the most important part of this entire story. The psychological warfare that started with that confrontation is now spreading through the entire division like wildfire. Every analyst talking about hunger and motivation, every expert discussing mental sharpness, every trainer analyzing preparation. It's all adding layers of pressure on fighters like Devin Haney to prove they're not just talented, but mentally strong enough to handle the biggest moments. When Sean Porter talks about Ryan Garcia looking locked in, when Ismail Salas discusses timing and activity, when Kerman Moughton dismisses the idea that anyone can beat Shakur, they're all contributing to a narrative that's making this rivalry bigger than just two fighters. It's becoming a referendum on who really belongs at the top of the sport and who's been getting by on reputation alone.
I kind of think that he's not focused. I don't think that he really took the fight serious. It seemed like he was more so focused on selling the fight than actually working and making sure that he's coming.
And that brings us to the brutal reality that every fighter in this division now has to face. The confrontation exposed something that everyone suspected but nobody wanted to say out loud. Some of these undefeated records might be built on carefully managed opposition and strategic matchmaking rather than true greatness. When analysts start talking about power, vulnerability, and getting clipped, they're really discussing how one mistake can expose years of careful career management. Shakur Stevenson represents the kind of test that reveals who's actually elite and who's been protected. The pressure is now on everyone, especially Devin Haney, to prove that their success comes from genuine skill rather than smart business decisions. And honestly, that's exactly the kind of pressure that either creates legends or destroys careers.
I personally think that Ryan Garcia is just trying to find any motivation to be even more hungry for this fight. His mentality is totally different for this fight, and he's in great shape. I've been worried, to be honest. I've been worried with all of the live streams and all of the kick lives and all the shit. So I've been worried about that. But he just seems just hungry. All right, but Mario Barrios was stoic, as always, and he was very serious, calling Ryan Garcia a clown.
Yeah. So here's where we stand right now, and why this matters so much more than just another boxing rivalry. The confrontation between Terence Crawford, Shakur Stevenson, and the Haney camp has created a situation where someone's reputation is about to get completely shattered. Either Shakur proves that all the hype is real and establishes himself as the most feared fighter in the division, or someone steps up and exposes him as just another overhyped prospect who couldn't deliver when it mattered most. But based on everything we've seen, the confidence, the support from legends, the fear in his opponent's reactions, it's pretty clear which direction this is heading. The boxing world is watching a star being born, and the fighters who are making excuses now are going to spend the next few years regretting that they didn't take their shot when they had the chance. What do you think happens next? Does Devin Haney find the courage to make this fight happen? Or does he keep finding reasons to avoid the most dangerous test of his career? Drop your prediction in the comments. Smash that like button if this breakdown helped you understand what's really happening behind the scenes. And make sure you subscribe because this rivalry is just getting started, and you don't want to miss what happens next.
Bit of an interesting adjustment, whereas Barrios, he's a big dude compared. I think Barrios probably bigger than Ryan. So massive, massive opportunity. No one obviously ever wants to lose a fight, but I feel like this is a can't lose for Ryan Garcia. You cannot lose this one.
I'm sorry, Mara, I forgot you. Oh no, here you go, Mara.
Right.
There you go. 8 ounce or 10 ounce. He picked 8. So we're not.
The aftermath of this confrontation is already creating ripple effects that nobody saw coming. Within hours of that face-to-face meeting, boxing insiders started reaching out with behind-the-scenes information that completely changes how we should interpret what happened in that room. Sources close to multiple camps are saying that this wasn't a spontaneous encounter. There were serious negotiations happening in the background, and the tension we witnessed was actually the result of deal talks falling apart in real time. Think about that for a second. While we were watching what looked like personal beef and ego clashes, there were apparently millions of dollars and career-defining opportunities being discussed and rejected. The confrontation wasn't just about respect or rankings. It was about fighters realizing that their financial futures and legacy-building opportunities were slipping away because of pride, fear, and strategic miscalculations.
Stuff on Twitter, people like really debating that fight, like Shakur lose to Ryan. I mess with Ryan. Ryan cool, but come on. Shakur, he had one bad fight, but Shakur is nice. Shakur got talent. Ryan can't beat Shakur.
But here's the part that's absolutely mind-blowing. Multiple sources are now confirming that Shakur Stevenson's team came to that meeting with a specific offer that would have guaranteed the biggest payday of Devin Haney's career. We're talking about numbers that would have made this one of the most lucrative fights in recent boxing history. And according to these sources, Haney's team didn't just decline. They didn't even want to hear the full proposal. That explains so much about the tension we saw, the awkward responses, and why Crawford got so heated in his defense of Shakur. Crawford wasn't just defending a talented fighter. He was watching a generational talent get dismissed by people who were too scared to even discuss the business terms of what could have been a historic matchup. The disrespect wasn't just personal. It was professional suicide disguised as strategic thinking. And get this, the timing of this confrontation is even more significant than anyone realized. Industry sources are revealing that this meeting happened just days before major network executives were supposed to finalize their biggest boxing investments of the year. The confrontation wasn't just about settling beef between fighters. It was about proving to television networks and streaming platforms which fighters are ready for main event status, and which ones are going to keep making excuses when the stakes get real. Shakur and Crawford's aggressive approach was essentially a live audition for the biggest power brokers in boxing, while Haney's hesitation was being evaluated by people who can make or break careers with a single phone call. The pressure in that room wasn't just coming from the fighters. It was coming from the knowledge that industry executives were going to base $100 million decisions on how these fighters handled themselves in that exact moment. Here's something that makes this situation even more explosive. Boxing journalists who were present are now reporting that there were several other high-profile fighters and their teams watching this confrontation unfold, and their reactions were absolutely telling. Apparently, some of the biggest names in boxing were taking notes, literally writing down observations about how each fighter handled the pressure, the confrontation, and the business discussions. These aren't just casual observers. These are potential future opponents who are studying body language, measuring confidence levels, and identifying weaknesses they can exploit later. The confrontation accidentally became a scouting report for every elite fighter in multiple weight classes. Shakur and Crawford's dominant performance in that room probably earned them respect and fear from fighters they haven't even been matched up with yet, while Haney's uncertain responses might have painted a target on his back for opportunistic opponents who smell vulnerability. What's really fascinating is how this confrontation exposed the different philosophies that are currently dividing the entire sport of boxing. On one side, you have the Crawford-Stevenson approach, aggressive, confident, willing to take risks for legacy-defining fights even if the business terms aren't perfect. On the other side, you have the modern, cautious approach that prioritizes undefeated records, carefully managed opposition, and maximum financial return with minimum risk. The clash we witnessed wasn't just between individual fighters. It was between two completely different visions of what professional boxing should be in 2024. Crawford represents the old-school mentality where great fighters seek out great challenges regardless of the complications, while the Haney camp represents the new school approach where business considerations often outweigh competitive fire. The problem is that fans and networks are getting tired of the cautious approach, and this confrontation might have been the moment where the sport officially shifted back toward rewarding aggression and risk-taking. The social media explosion that followed this confrontation revealed something that should terrify every fighter who's been playing it safe. Boxing fans are absolutely starving for authentic competition and real stakes, and they can smell manufactured drama from a mile away. The genuine tension and unscripted emotion of this confrontation generated more organic engagement than most carefully planned press conferences and promotional campaigns combined. Fans were sharing clips, analyzing body language, and debating the implications because they finally witnessed something real in a sport that's been drowning in artificial storylines and protected fighters. The response proved that there's a massive audience waiting to support fighters who are willing to take real risks against elite competition. And that audience is getting tired of supporting fighters who talk big but consistently find reasons to avoid the toughest available fights. But here's the kicker that changes everything. Sources close to the situation are now revealing that this confrontation was actually recorded by multiple parties, and there's apparently footage that shows even more intense moments than what was initially reported. We're talking about exchanges that were so heated, so personal, and so revealing that the people involved are now trying to prevent the footage from being released publicly. Think about what that means. The confrontation we heard about was apparently just the tip of the iceberg, and there's video evidence of interactions that would completely change public perception of everyone involved. The fact that multiple parties are now negotiating about whether to release this footage suggests that someone said or did something that could seriously damage their career if it became public. The power dynamics of this entire situation could shift dramatically depending on what's actually shown in that unreleased footage. And here's something that nobody's talking about but should be front-page news in every boxing publication. The confrontation has apparently triggered a chain reaction of phone calls between promoters, network executives, and fighter representatives that's reshaping multiple upcoming fight cards and television deals. When major industry players witness that kind of authentic drama and genuine competitive fire, they start moving money around immediately to capitalize on the momentum. Sources are suggesting that several previously planned fights are being scrapped or postponed because networks want a strike while the iron is hot with the fighters who impressed them during the confrontation. The business implications of that single meeting are still playing out behind the scenes, and we probably won't understand the full impact for months. But the early signs suggest that some careers are about to get fast-tracked, while others might get quietly deprioritized based on how fighters handled themselves in that pressure cooker environment. The international boxing community's reaction to this confrontation has been absolutely fascinating and reveals how much global attention American boxing politics actually receives. Promoters from the UK, Mexico, Japan, and other major boxing markets have been reaching out to American representatives trying to understand the implications and identify opportunities to capitalize on the situation. The confrontation didn't just create domestic drama. It created international business opportunities for fighters who impressed global audiences with their confidence and professionalism under pressure. Shakur Stevenson's stock apparently rose significantly in overseas markets, where fans and promoters respect technical excellence and competitive courage, while fighters who appeared hesitant or political during the confrontation may have damaged their appeal to international audiences who value directness and authenticity over careful media management. Here's the part that should make every boxing fan absolutely furious. While we were watching this confrontation and getting excited about the possibility of elite fighters finally facing each other, there were apparently legal and contractual complications being discussed that could prevent these fights from ever happening regardless of what the fighters actually want. The business side of boxing is so convoluted with conflicting promotional agreements, network exclusivity deals, and management conflicts that even when fighters genuinely want to compete against each other, the fights can still fall apart due to corporate politics. The confrontation exposed the frustration that fighters feel when they're ready to risk everything for legacy-defining matchups. But the business infrastructure of the sport makes it nearly impossible to deliver the fights that fans demand and fighters deserve. That's probably why Crawford got so emotional during his defense of Shakur. He knows firsthand how the business side of boxing can destroy competitive opportunities and waste the prime years of generational talents.